Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into effective leadership communication for nurses.
Oh, yeah.
And get this, we've got these excerpts from an article called LC3 Communication
Right.
that uses this awesome analogy of communication as a compass,
Mm,
guiding nurse leaders towards healthier work environments.
I like that.
It's so cool.
It really is a brilliant metaphor. The
Mm,
source emphasizes how communication is so much more than just conveying information.
right.
It's the foundation for
Mhm.
building trust,
Yeah.
fostering collaboration, and creating resilient teams.
You know, it's funny because when I first became a charge nurse,
Yeah.
I was so focused on just like the tasks and delegation. I
Right.
thought if I just kept things running smoothly, that was enough.
Yeah.
But I quickly learned that my team, they needed more than just directions. They
Yeah.
needed to feel heard and understood.
That's such a great point, and it's something the source really emphasizes.
All right.
The difference between thriving teams and struggling teams often comes down to the quality of communication.
Wow.
Have you ever thought about a time you felt truly connected to your team?
Hmm.
Chances are there was open and honest communication happening.
Absolutely. Okay, so the source talks about specific benefits of effective communication for nurse leaders.
Right.
It mentions building trust, creating alignment, and promoting resilience.
Yeah.
These seem pretty straightforward,
Sure.
but I'm curious how these benefits actually play out in a high-pressure healthcare setting.
So let's start with trust.
Okay.
When a nurse leader communicates openly and honestly,
Yeah.
it creates a sense of psychological safety for the team.
Hmm.
Nurses feel confident that their leader has their back, that they can speak up without fear of judgment.
Right.
This trust then influences how the team interacts with each other and even with patients.
Okay.
Imagine a unit where nurses feel comfortable raising concerns or asking for help.
Oh, yeah.
It just creates a more positive and collaborative environment overall.
That makes total sense. It's like trust becomes the bedrock for everything else.
Exactly. And then there's alignment. Think about receiving unclear instructions.
Oh, yeah.
Frustrating.
Oh,
Right.
definitely.
Well, in a healthcare setting, unclear communication can have serious consequences.
Mm-hmm.
Clear communication from a nurse leader ensures everyone understands goals, expectations, and processes.
Yeah.
This minimizes confusion,
Right.
reduces the potential for errors, and
Okay.
allows the team to work together seamlessly.
It's like everyone having a clear map of where they're going and knowing how to get there together.
Precisely. Now let's talk about resilience.
Okay.
The healthcare environment is demanding.
For sure.
Nurses face emotional and physical challenges daily.
Yeah.
But when a team feels connected and supported through open communication, they're better equipped to handle those stresses.
Right.
They know they can rely on each other and their leader, which creates a sense of shared responsibility and ultimately resilience.
So it's about creating a culture where it's okay to ask for help, acknowledge when you're struggling, and know that your team has your back. That's powerful. But let's get into the nitty-gritty. The source has a section called What Communication Looks Like. Core elements
Okay.
that I think is really interesting.
It's a fantastic breakdown of practical strategies.
Yeah.
Think of it as different points on your leadership compass,
Right.
guiding you toward effective communication.
I like that.
The source highlights elements like regular check-ins, feedback loops, peer networking,
Yeah.
all crucial for navigating the complexities of a healthcare leadership role.
Okay, so I love how they break it down like that. Let's start with regular check-ins.
Okay.
What's the secret sauce to making these truly effective? I've been to so many meetings that felt like a complete waste of time.
You're not alone.
Mm.
The source emphasizes that check-ins shouldn't just be routine box-ticking exercises.
Oh, good.
They need to be intentional, focused on connection alignment and problem solving.
Yeah.
Instead of just going through the motions, imagine using check-ins to proactively address concerns, celebrate successes, and foster a sense of camaraderie within the team.
That's a much better use of everyone's time. So it's about creating a space for open dialogue where both the leader and the team feel heard and valued.
You got it. The source also points out that these check-ins should always aim for mutual understanding and actionable outcomes. It's not just about talking. It's about working together to make things better.
Okay, so we've got those regular check-ins happening. What about feedback loops? How do those fit into this communication compass?
Feedback loops are like your internal compass calibration system. They ensure that communication flows both ways, from the leader to the team and from the team back to the leader.
Okay.
It's about creating channels for nurses to share their insights, concerns and ideas with their leader,
Right.
and for the leader to then provide feedback and incorporate that input into decision-making.
Yeah, I can see how that would be empowering for nurses, knowing that their voices are heard and their perspectives are valued.
Absolutely. Imagine a nurse bringing their team's concerns about a new charting system directly to their nurse leader. The nurse leader then takes that feedback to the IT department, works with them to find solutions, and then relays those solutions back to the team.
Wow.
That's a feedback loop in action,
Yeah.
and it can make a huge difference in morale and team cohesion.
It's a great example. Okay, so we've got these more formal communication structures in place.
Right.
But the source also mentions peer networking and collaboration.
Yeah.
Why is that so important, especially in a demanding field like healthcare? I can imagine it's easy to feel isolated sometimes.
You're right. It can be incredibly isolating.
Yeah.
Nurse leaders often face incredibly complex challenges,
Uh-huh.
and having a supportive network of peers can make all the difference.
Okay.
Peer communication allows them to connect with others who truly understand their experiences,
Right.
to share best practices, brainstorm solutions,
Yeah.
and provide that crucial emotional support that's sometimes hard to find elsewhere.
It's like having a built-in support system that speaks your language and gets what you're going through. I can definitely see the value in that.
Exactly. This type of peer networking can help reduce feelings of isolation,
Right. Yeah.
create a sense of community,
Uh-huh.
and ultimately lead to greater resilience and job satisfaction.
So far, this is making a lot of sense. But we all know that communication goes beyond just the structure and channels.
Right.
It's also about how we communicate. The source talks about empathy and active listening.
Yeah.
These seem almost too obvious,
Sure.
but why are they so hard to practice consistently? I know I'm guilty of interrupting sometimes.
We're all human, and it's easy to get caught up in our own thoughts.
Yeah,
Especially in a fast-paced, high-pressure environment like a hospital.
true.
Truly listening with the intention of understanding another person's perspective
Right,
takes conscious effort and a willingness to put aside our own assumptions.
for sure.
Think about a time when someone truly listened to you without judgment. Didn't it make you feel valued and respected?
Yeah.
That's the power of active listening.
Yeah, you're right. It's about being fully present in the conversation, not just waiting for your turn to speak.
Exactly.
It's a skill I'm definitely still working on.
Me too. And the source emphasizes that active listening is crucial for building trust,
Yeah.
especially in a leadership role.
Uh-huh.
When team members feel heard and understood,
Right.
they're more likely to open up, share their concerns,
Yeah,
and ultimately contribute to a more positive and collaborative work environment.
that makes a lot of sense. And beyond active listening, the source also stresses the importance of clarity and consistency in communication.
Yes.
Why are these elements so vital for effective leadership? I'm thinking about all those times I've received vague instructions from someone and ended up feeling totally
It's
confused.
incredibly frustrating, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Clarity ensures that everyone understands the message.
Right.
There's no room for ambiguity or misinterpretation, which is especially crucial in healthcare,
Yours.
where decisions can have significant consequences.
For sure.
Imagine a situation where a physician's orders are ambiguous. A nurse leader who's skilled in clear communication will know how to clarify those orders to ensure patient safety and avoid potential errors.
That's a great point. Clarity is essential, especially when patient safety is involved. And what about consistency? Why is that so important?
Consistency builds trust and predictability.
Oh, okay.
When communication is consistent, it creates a sense of stability and reduces uncertainty for the team.
Right.
Imagine a leader who constantly changes their mind or sends mixed messages.
Oh, yeah.
It creates confusion and erodes trust.
Uh-huh.
But when communication is consistent,
Yeah.
it helps build a foundation of trust and respect.
It's about establishing clear expectations and then consistently reinforcing them through your words and actions. I see how that can make a big difference. Now let's tackle something that can be a bit tricky. Conflict resolution.
Okay.
How can communication be used as a tool to effectively address and resolve conflict within a team?
The key is to approach conflict with a mindset of open dialogue and solution-focused conversations.
Okay.
When conflict arises,
Yeah.
instead of avoiding it or letting it fester,
Right.
leaders need to create a safe space for open and honest discussions, remembering to acknowledge the inherent power dynamics at play.
Interesting.
When mediating conflict between nurses with different levels of experience, it's crucial to ensure that everyone feels comfortable voicing their perspective.
So it's not about sweeping conflict under the rug, but rather about addressing it head on with empathy and a genuine desire to find a resolution that works for everyone involved.
Exactly. The source emphasizes the importance of active listening, even or perhaps especially during conflict.
Mm,
When each party feels heard and understood,
right,
it can help de-escalate tensions and opens the door for collaboration.
for sure.
Remember, conflict doesn't have to be a negative experience.
Yeah,
It can be an opportunity to learn, grow, and strengthen relationships.
that's such a valuable perspective. All right, before we move on, I want to touch on one last element from this section. Leveraging technology.
Okay.
We live in a digital world.
We do.
So how can technology enhance communication for nurse leaders? I can see how it could help with staying connected and sharing information, especially when everyone's so busy.
Technology can be a game changer for streamlining communication and making it more efficient, especially in a fast-paced environment like healthcare. Think about all the ways we use technology to communicate in our personal lives, texting, video calls, social media.
Yeah.
Those same tools can be incredibly valuable for nurse leaders.
Right.
Platforms for instant messaging,
Oh.
shared dashboards for tracking progress on projects,
Yeah.
virtual meeting software for connecting with teams across different locations.
Right.
All of these can help keep everyone connected and informed.
So technology isn't a replacement for those core elements we discussed,
Right.
but it can definitely enhance and support them. It's
Yeah.
about using the right tool for the right job.
Exactly. The key is to use technology strategically to facilitate communication,
Okay.
not to become overly reliant on it or let it replace those essential face-to-face interactions.
Now, let's talk about something that I think a lot of nurse leaders struggle with, feeling disconnected, unsupported, and overwhelmed by communication challenges.
Yeah.
The source has a section called Sounds Like PS Problems and Solutions that speaks directly to this. What's the core problem they highlight?
The source points out that despite its importance,
Right.
many nurse leaders often feel like they're drowning in a sea of communication challenges.
Oh, wow.
They're juggling demanding workloads,
Yeah.
complex patient care needs, and often feel like their own voices aren't being heard by upper management.
Right.
They're stuck in the middle,
Yeah.
trying to manage communication up, down, and sideways,
Oh, gosh.
and it can be exhausting.
I can definitely relate to that feeling. It's like being caught in this communication web, trying to manage all these different threads, but not always feeling equipped to do so effectively. So what's the solution? How can nurse leaders break free from this communication overload and start feeling more in control?
The source offers some really practical advice for implementing effective communication strategies, which we'll delve into after a quick break.
Sounds good. I'm ready to hear those solutions.
Let's dive into those practical strategies. The source suggests it all starts with scheduling those intentional check-ins
Okay.
with both your team and upper management.
So we're talking about carving out dedicated time to connect, not just with the people we lead, but also the people we report to.
Precisely. These check-ins provide a structured opportunity to discuss goals, share updates, address challenges, and celebrate successes. It's a chance to advocate for your team's needs and make sure everyone is aligned on priorities and expectations.
You know, I've been in situations where I felt like my concerns weren't being heard by upper management. Having those regular check-ins could have made a huge difference.
I hear you. It's so important to feel like you have a voice.
Right.
And these check-ins can provide that platform. They create a space for open dialogue and give you a chance to share your perspective.
Okay, so how often should these check-ins happen? Is there like a magic number?
Hmm.
I'm already feeling overwhelmed just thinking about adding more meetings to my schedule.
I understand that feeling.
Right.
The frequency will definitely vary depending on your team's needs and the organization's structure,
Right.
but the key is consistency.
Okay.
Whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, or even monthly, having a regular cadence helps establish a rhythm for communication
Yeah.
and ensures that issues don't pile up or get swept under the rug.
Consistency seems to be a recurring theme in this deep dive,
Right.
and for good reason.
Yeah,
It makes sense when you know what to expect. It creates a sense of stability and predictability.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the frequency of these check-ins,
Okay.
but also about the quality of the interactions they awaken. Leaders need to approach these meetings with intention, creating a space for open dialogue and active listening.
Speaking of active listening, the source actually lists practice active listening as one of the key steps for implementing effective communication.
Oh, yeah.
We've touched on this before,
Right.
but can you elaborate on why it's so important for nurse leaders, especially in those check-in settings?
Mm.
I remember when I first started as a charge nurse, I was so quick to offer solutions.
Yeah.
I thought I was being helpful,
Right.
but looking back, I realized I wasn't always truly listening to what my team was trying to tell me.
It's a common trap. We want to be problem solvers.
Yeah.
But sometimes the best solution is simply to listen and validate someone's experience.
Mm,
Think about it from the perspective of a nurse on the front lines. They're dealing with complex patient care needs,
yeah.
often under immense pressure.
Right.
When a leader truly listens to their concerns, validates their experiences,
Mhm.
and demonstrates empathy, it creates a sense of psychological safety. Nurses feel more comfortable speaking up, sharing ideas, and flagging potential issues.
It's about creating an environment where people feel heard and respected, even or perhaps especially when they have dissenting opinions or concerns.
Absolutely. And this active listening goes beyond just check-ins.
Yeah.
It's a skill that nurse leaders need to cultivate in all their interactions,
Right.
whether it's with their team upper management or even patients and their families.
So it's not just about what we say, but how we listen.
Right.
Which can be just as powerful, if not more so.
I couldn't agree more. And it all ties back to building that foundation of trust,
Yeah.
which is so essential for effective leadership.
Okay, moving on to the next practical step. Foster peer collaboration. We've talked about the benefits of peer networks,
Yeah,
but how can nurse leaders actively foster this type of collaboration? It's not always easy to find time to connect with colleagues, especially when everyone's so busy.
you're absolutely right. Time is a precious commodity. But fostering peer collaboration doesn't have to be time-consuming. It starts with creating opportunities for connection. This could involve establishing formal mentorship programs, organizing regular peer-to-peer meetings, or even just encouraging informal gatherings where nurses can share experiences and support each other.
So it's about providing the space and structure for those connections to form organically.
I like the idea of informal gatherings.
Yeah.
Sometimes those casual conversations can be the most valuable.
Absolutely. And it's not just about creating those spaces, but also about actively participating in them. Leaders need to be willing to share their own experiences, both
yeah.
successes and challenges,
Yeah.
and to genuinely engage with their peers. It's about leading by example and demonstrating the value of collaboration.
It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk. I can see how that would create a culture of collaboration and support.
Exactly. And the benefits of this collaboration extend beyond just individual support.
Okay.
When nurses connect and share best practices, it can lead to innovative solutions.
Right. Improved patient care
Right.
and ultimately a stronger and more resilient healthcare system.
Okay, let's talk about the next step. Communicate clearly and frequently. Seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
But what are some common pitfalls that leaders should watch out for? I know I've been guilty of sending emails that were way too long and complicated.
We've all been there. One common mistake is assuming that everyone has the same level of understanding or access to information. Leaders need to be mindful of potential information silos
Okay.
and ensure that their communication is clear, concise, and accessible to everyone. Think about the language you use, the format of your message, and the channels you choose to communicate through.
Right.
Is it easy for everyone to understand and access the information?
So it's about tailoring the message to the audience and using multiple channels to ensure it reaches everyone. And it's about being concise. No one wants to read a novel when they're trying to get information quickly.
Right. And it's not just about the initial communication,
Okay.
but also about providing opportunities for clarification and feedback. Leaders need to be open to questions, willing to rephrase or explain things differently,
Yeah.
and ensure that everyone feels comfortable seeking clarification.
It's about creating a continuous loop of communication where information flows freely and everyone feels informed and comfortable asking questions. I like that. Okay, we've
Yeah.
covered a lot of ground,
Right.
but there's one crucial step we haven't addressed yet. Resolve conflicts constructively. This can be a challenging area for many leaders. What advice does the source offer for navigating conflict effectively? I'm thinking about a time when I had two nurses on my team who were constantly butting heads.
Oh, yeah.
It was so stressful trying to mediate between them.
It sounds like it. Conflict can be incredibly draining,
Yeah.
especially when it's ongoing. The first step is recognizing that conflict is inevitable, especially in high-pressure environments, like healthcare. Instead of avoiding or suppressing conflict,
Right.
leaders need to approach it as an opportunity for growth and improvement.
It's about shifting that mindset from conflict as something negative to conflict as an opportunity to learn and strengthen relationships. That's a great way to look at it.
Exactly. And the source highlights the importance of addressing conflict directly.
Oh,
with empathy and transparency.
yeah.
It's about creating a safe space for open and honest dialogue,
Right.
where each party feels heard and respected.
It's about focusing on the issue at hand, not resorting to personal attacks or blame games.
Mm.
I can see how that would help keep the conversation productive.
Precisely. And it's important to remember that resolving conflict doesn't always mean finding a solution that everyone agrees with 100%.
Right.
Sometimes it's about finding a compromise that addresses the core concerns and allows everyone to move forward in a positive direction.
So it's about finding that common ground, even if it requires some flexibility and a willingness to let go of certain positions.
Absolutely. And that's where those active listening and communication skills come into play. By truly listening to each other's perspectives, leaders can often identify underlying needs and interests that can lead to mutually beneficial solutions.
This has been incredibly helpful. Okay, we've covered a lot of practical steps for implementing effective communication.
Yeah.
But before we move on, I want to revisit that compass metaphor that the source introduced.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful visual. How do all these elements we've discussed fit together to create that communication compass for nurse leaders?
It's like each element represents a different point on the compass, guiding leaders toward healthier and more vibrant work environments.
Right.
It's about finding your bearings and using these tools to navigate the complex terrain of leadership.
So regular check-ins could be seen as north, providing that sense of direction and ensuring everyone is aligned.
Exactly. And feedback loops could be east, representing that essential flow of information and ensuring that all voices are heard. Peer collaboration could be south, symbolizing the support and connection that leaders need to navigate those challenging waters.
And what about those core communication skills we discussed? Empathy, active listening, clarity, and consistency. Where do they fit on this compass?
Those are like the needle of the compass, constantly guiding leaders towards effective communication in all their interactions. Without those essential skills, the compass wouldn't function properly. They are fundamental to everything else we've discussed.
I love that. It's such a powerful analogy. But as with any compass, knowing how to use it is just as important as having it in the first place.
Absolutely. That's why the source doesn't just stop at describing those communication elements. It provides those practical steps for putting them into action.
Right.
It's about empowering nurse leaders like you to use this communication compass to navigate those complex leadership challenges and create positive change within your teams and organizations.
This has been really insightful. I'm curious, though, what does the source say about the actual impact of these communication efforts? Do they see tangible results? I know we've talked about the benefits in theory, but I'd love to hear about real-world examples.
That's a great question. And the source does provide some compelling evidence for the positive impact of robust communication.
Oh, okay.
They've seen it firsthand in healthcare settings where these principles have been put into practice.
I am all ears. Let's dive into that in our final segment. All right, we're back, and I'm ready to hear about that real-world impact of effective communication. I'm all about those tangible results.
For sure.
So what kind of changes can nurse leaders actually expect to see when they start putting these principles into practice?
Well, the source highlights some pretty remarkable improvements in a few key areas.
Okay.
The first one is stronger relationships. When leaders prioritize active listening and communicate with empathy,
Yeah.
it builds trust and rapport, not just between themselves and their team,
Right.
but also with upper management.
Oh, wow.
This creates a much more collaborative and supportive work environment, a true win-win.
I can see that. It's like a ripple effect, starting with those individual connections. And then spreading outward to improve the overall culture of the unit or even the whole organization?
Exactly. And the source also points out that clear communication leads to increased alignment. When everyone is on the same page regarding goals, expectations, and processes,
Right.
it reduces confusion and streamlines workflows.
Okay.
It's like a well-oiled machine where all the parts are working together smoothly.
Yeah.
This can lead to greater efficiency, fewer errors,
Right.
and ultimately better patient care.
That makes perfect sense. It's like everyone's rowing in the same direction, which is crucial in a field as demanding and high stakes as healthcare.
Exactly.
No one wants to be paddling against the current when they're trying to provide excellent care.
And speaking of navigating choppy waters,
Okay.
the source also emphasizes the impact of effective communication on resilience.
All right.
Remember those peer networks and feedback loops we talked about?
Yeah.
They provide leaders with the support they need
Okay.
to handle the inevitable stresses and challenges of healthcare. When leaders feel heard and supported,
Right.
They're better equipped to handle stress, make tough decisions,
Oh, yeah.
and bounce back from setbacks. It's like having a life preserver when you're facing a storm.
That's a great analogy. It's so true. It's not just about communicating effectively outward to the team,
Right.
but also about fostering those channels of communication that allow leaders to receive support and guidance as well. We all need someone to lean on sometimes,
Yeah,
especially in a high-pressure job like nursing.
absolutely. It's about creating that reciprocal system where everyone feels empowered to communicate openly and honestly, knowing that their voice matters and they have a support system to rely on.
Okay, so we've talked about stronger relationships,
Yeah.
increased alignment, and greater resilience.
Yes.
What about the overall work culture? How does effective communication contribute to a healthier and more positive environment? I imagine it makes a huge difference in terms of morale and job satisfaction.
You're spot on.
Yeah.
The source emphasizes that when conflict is addressed constructively
Mhm.
and communication is transparent,
Yeah.
it fosters a sense of trust and mutual respect. People feel safe to speak their minds and share their ideas without fear of retribution. This, in turn, leads to greater collaboration, increased job satisfaction, and reduced turnover. It's like creating a workplace where people actually thrive and feel fulfilled,
Right.
not just clock in and clock out.
That's the kind of environment I want to be a part of. So it's not just about improving those performance metrics. It's about creating a work environment where people genuinely enjoy coming to work and feel valued for their contributions.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of effective communication.
Yeah.
It has this ripple effect that touches every aspect of the healthcare team,
Yeah.
from individual nurses to the overall organization,
Right.
and ultimately contributes to better outcomes for everyone.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening. I'm feeling really motivated to put these insights into practice and start making a positive impact on my team. But I also know that change doesn't happen overnight. Does the source offer any words of wisdom for those of us who are embarking on this communication journey?
They do. They emphasize that effective communication isn't a destination, but an ongoing journey. It's about continuous learning, reflection, and adaptation.
Hmm.
Nurse leaders need to regularly assess their communication practices,
Yeah.
seek feedback from their teams and peers,
Okay.
and be willing to adjust their approach as needed.
Right.
There's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Of course.
What works for one team might not work for another.
Uh-huh.
It's about being flexible and responsive to the ever-changing dynamics of healthcare.
That's a good reminder. It's about being open to feedback and constantly striving to improve those communication skills. We can always learn and grow in this area no matter how experienced we are.
Absolutely. And it's about recognizing that effective communication is a skill that can be honed and refined over time. The more you practice those active listening skills,
Yeah.
the more you prioritize clear and consistent messaging, the more you embrace those structured communication strategies,
Okay.
the more natural and impactful your communication will become. It's like any skill practice makes progress.
Well, this has been such an inspiring conversation. I think our listeners will walk away with some valuable tools and perspectives to enhance their own communication practices. What a great reminder that we all have the power to make a positive difference through effective communication.
I agree. It's all about making those conscious efforts to communicate effectively, and the rewards are well worth it.
Yeah.
Stronger teams, healthier work environments, and ultimately better care for those we serve.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. I want to thank you, our expert, for sharing your insights and helping us navigate this complex topic. And to you, our listener, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the power of communication for nurse leaders. Remember, by focusing on these core principles and making consistent efforts, you can create positive change within your team and organization. You've got this.